parents, they always use Gino's first name. Where's Gino today? Tell Gino I'm not riding or going to be late or that sort of thing. And his one thing I remember when he interviewed a number of years ago, he talked about how much he loved kids and loved the community and that sort of thing, and went on and on about it. And I was like, Gino, you're hired, okay? You don't have to keep going on. It was almost like, but it was so true. You know, I was almost wondering, you know, if that how true all that was, but it truly was, and he shows it every single day how much he cares for the kids. And I was up at the transfer site one day and happened to peer around the corner, and he was kneeling down, wiping a little girl's, you know, nose, and then a student walked by and dropped their backpack, and he, you know, ran down and picked up the backpack and gave it to the student and said, hey, come back here, because he tried to walk away, and said, I need to give you a hug first, and hugged him as he walked away. And it was just kind of that, you know, 30 seconds that he didn't even know I was sitting there was kind of, you know, summarizes Gino as a bus driver, and we're blessed to have him on our team, and very happy to have him be recognized this year, because it's very well deserved, and glad to have him here. So thank you to Gino, and if you have anything to say.
First, I want to say very glad to be working for Faribault Transportation. Be my, 7th year coming up here. And I'll say it's a wonderful place to work for. And the award was absolutely complete surprise to me. I wasn't bucking for it in any way. I was just doing what I felt the job required. Kid comes on the bus and wants a hug. They get a hug, and goes a long way that way with the kids. And got one short story I got to tell you. This was like 3 years ago. 3 girls sitting about halfway back on the bus on the driver's side. And one of them started a commotion back there, and it happened to be the girl that sat on the aisle side of the seat. So I looked up and, we got to put a stop to this. So I pulled over, put the emergency four-ways on. I started walking back toward the bus, and I knew who I was looking for, and I knew where the individual was sitting. I got back there, and I said, hey, got to use your snitches. One of my snitches sitting in the seat behind us says, Gino, right there. So what happened was the girl that I was looking for that was sitting on the outside, on the aisle side, switched seats with one of the girls in the middle. Then they covered her up with her coat. So, and then after one of my snitches said, Gino, right there, I lifted the coat up and I says, hello, you got a front seat right now. and again, it was this whole thing was a complete surprise to me, and I'm still absorbing it. Believe me, I am. Anything else, Garrett?
Keep up the great work. Thank you very much.
This was the award presented to me up at, was it Big Lake? Was it?
It's just north of Garrison there at Bay Lake.
Bay Lake, there we go. Rutgers. Very nice treat for me there too. So.
Well, thank you. And board members, comments?
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank Gino.
Thank you.
I see you on Sundays. I see you on Sundays. You know what I'm talking about. Thank you for the service you provide to our children.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah.
Dr. Robichaud.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Gino, you know that one of the first smiley faces that students see is the bus driver in the morning. And thank you for that smile and that dedication to students, because you make their day start out very positively, and it carries through for the whole day. So thank you.
Ms. Moore.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Gino, for what you're doing. And many, many years ago, both my children rode the Faribault public school buses, and they loved the driver, and you're probably just carrying in their footsteps. And I really appreciate that, because as a parent, I knew that when they got on the bus driver was going to take care of them. I had full confidence in that, and I think I have full confidence in Faribault Transportation, and certainly in people like you. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
From a parent a long time ago and for now. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I would just echo what Dr. Robichaud said, and I appreciate that you get all of our students to school safely. So keep up the great work.
Gino, I'll echo everything that these four have said. Thank you. I'm kind of wondering where you got that T-shirt. I once drove a bus at an open house, and I didn't get one of those T-shirts. So I'm wondering how you get one of those.
You have to win a competition.
You go on the internet.
Go on the internet. Gotcha.
Schoolbusbox.com, I think.
Gotcha.
All kinds of them.
But-
I got two more, but
But truly a big thank you, and also a thank you to Faribault Transportation. Garrett, I know, what'd you say, Mr. Benty? 30 years? I'm guessing there's no other bus transportation company in Minnesota that's gotten that. So I think year after year is a reflection on your leadership in the company, and as Gino said, it's a great place to work. But thank you to both of you and all the people that work at your company. So.
I just want to echo what most of them said, but especially Dr. Robichaud. As a former educator, I know that when the kids that ride the bus, the first face they see is the bus driver for a very productive day, to have the best day possible. And the last person they see connected with schools is also the bus driver on the ride home. So thank you for what you do. And those hugs the kids mean everything. I know that. And Garrett, to you and Faribault Transportation, I can't tell you I believe how blessed and fortunate Faribault Public Schools is to have you as our transportation specialist, and your company. 30 years says it all. But just the quality of service you provide and the people you employ is just astronomical. So thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you very much, as always, for the support and recognizing our wonderful people that we have. We greatly appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda 4A, items of information or things you want to share. School board members. Anyone?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Olson.
I'd like to ask Jamie two items. What's the status of the cell phone policy and the status of the books? I don't know if it's proper form, but there's two questions.
Is that something that we want to answer now or talk about now or later on in the meeting? Or Mr. Venti, do you wish to address those? Or
That's up to you, Mr. Chair.
if you have an answer or can give us some information, I think it'd be
So
good.
the cell phone policy update is that a policy has been written. It has been gone through by the attorneys, and it will be one of 42 policies that is looked at on August 6th by the policy committee.
Now, we're going to be approving some handbooks here. That won't be in it, right?
Yes,
It-
it alludes to the policy that follows the away for the day piece that is the
So
piece that we'll be looking to
we're going
follow
to approve it
district-wide.
with a cell phone policy in it,
Yes.
which hasn't been voted on yet.
Remember, handbooks are practice for policies. They're not
Okay.
policy. So
Okay. Okay.
And the books update, I believe Mr. Olson asked about that.
So the library books, so I think that needs to come back from the board. There's some complications around this. If the board still chooses to adopt the ban pieces, but there have been some limits that have been put on that by the state legislature. But there are still pieces that the board can take up if they choose to. So that policy from MSBA is still out there around that, if the board would like to take another look at that.
I believe we'll place that on a work session shortly.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else? board members.
Mr.
Ms.
Chair?
Moore?
Yes, just some comments in general. You know, this is our summer, it's in the summertime, so I just want to mention that we as a board are responsible for the education of our students in our district. We know that. But when our students graduate, if they are or are not meeting the standards for reading, writing, and math, et cetera, the school board is ultimately responsible. The buck stops with us. And so also I'd like to say too, as a school board, we are responsible for the budget, the school budget. You know, I was told, I think by somebody at the Minnesota School Board Association, the MSBA, that school district budgets are the most complicated budget that maybe only one person in the state of Minnesota truly understands. And along with this, many times we are tasked with approving curriculum, grants, programs that we have only a handful of days to review, oftentimes with having to read hundreds of pages. And that's really what we are supposed to do. But I think as a school board, we need to start taking the time to thoroughly review and question and understand what we are putting our mark of approval on, whether it be budget, curriculum, or whatever. And that does take time. And I think if we don't take the time to really look at some of these things, or maybe start the process earlier, we're really not being responsible to students, the teachers, or the voters, or the taxpayers. So that's just some general comments that I have. Thank you.
Dr. Robichaud?
Sure, thank you. There are about four of us, plus Superintendent Benty, attended a joint boards meeting last Friday or Monday, whatever it is.
Friday.
Sunday. Friday. And I want to thank the Chamber for putting that together. It is really interesting and dynamic to hear all of those voices talk about common needs that we have in this community. They've had that a couple, 3 times. And every time we meet with joint powers, county, city, hospital, economic development, it's really great to hear what's happening in this community and in Faribault specifically. So thank you, Cassie, for setting that up as a chamber employee.
Mr. Chair, I would like to dovetail on that. It's fun to hear the different perspectives on the county, city, the committee's side, the chamber side, and I think it was a great opportunity to hear others' views on what they think are the most important things in our community. And I think one of the bigger ones appeared to be housing, obviously, and housing is kind of a common denominator, because if you want to bring more business to town and you don't have places for those people to live, whoever works there or whoever runs the business, then it's not a plus for a business coming here. And that goes with, as well as expanding our workforce, helping our kids, our students here in our school to broaden their career opportunities. It seems like it all fell on housing. And Cassie, I want to thank you for organizing that along with Nort. I think it was a very good opportunity to hear those needs.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Wolf?
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate spot or not. Maybe I'll just start and you can interrupt me if I'm in the wrong here or not. But,
Okay.
Ms. Moore, I'd like to just ask you a couple questions, and I mean this in a non-confrontational way. You wrote a letter to the editor in the past week or so, and I fully applaud you for you started out by, I'm a Faribault Public School Board member. However, I am writing this as my opinion, not of the opinion of the entire board. So thank you for that. If you're okay, I'm just going to read a couple more lines here. You go on, and I'm not trying to cherry pick or anything like that, but you go on to say, also when the grant money runs out, and if the program from the grant remains, the expenses and salaries are convoluted or conflated into our already overburdened budget, cutting instructional personnel, including kindergarten paras. This is not being fiscally conservative or responsible. And so my just question to you would be, do you have any specifics where the expenses and salaries are convoluted and conflated and that you can share? And
Well, when I use those words convoluted, that was actually from the one school board meeting. It was actually from when we were, I think it was February 24th, I think. So that was from that meeting. Much of that, what I got was from that meeting. And this is exactly goes back to what I am saying here. We are tasked with many things, with the budget and with curriculum and grants and programs, and many times we only have a handful of days to review this. Oftentimes we have to, that one meeting, I think we had 300 pages to read. There was 3 contracts, and I like to read everything that I can. So what I'm saying is, I think it's very important that when we put our mark of approval on something, we better understand it thoroughly. And if we don't, because from our scores, reading, math, they've been going down before COVID. And so what are we doing wrong? What I'm saying as a board, the buck stops here. And actually, in a way, I was kind of referring to I guess the letter to the editor, because I think as a board, we really need to take note what programs are working. And, grants have been coming in and programs, they've been here for over 5 years, and I've been only here for a year and a half. I think it's very important that as a board, we sit back and we say, okay, because many times, we get it, with only a few days to look at it, like if it's a curriculum, whatever, we get a presentation, and then we get to ask questions. But one of the things is what I'd like to do is start the process a little bit earlier so we can thoroughly understand what we're putting our mark of approval on. And that's what kind of, I don't know if that answered your question or not, but I think it's very important.
It does to a degree, and if you and the other board members want the information sooner, I would encourage you to work with Superintendent Benty and Mr.
But I think we also have to really understand what we're putting our signature to or whatever. And so I think it's very important. And I think school budgets are one of the most complicated. And that was, I think it was at the MSBA conference, somebody said, this is Mr. Benty, you probably agree that school budgets are the most complicated. And I think we really need to understand what we are, like I said, I'm going to say it again, putting our mark of approval on, because we owe it to the kids. And right now, it looks like you always say, insanity is keep doing the same thing over again. We've had marks with the MPAs, it's been going down before COVID. And so I think we need to step back and say, okay, what are we doing wrong? Let's look at some of these things. And that's what my intention was, too, with that letter, so.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. And
And it was I said, I think we need to make a new start now with a new school year. And so let's start afresh, and if something comes across that we have to approve of, I think we really have to take some time and look at it, ask questions, and, we need a few more days to look at it. And that's why I'd like to see it that we were, and in fact, I had, with grants and things like that, I had asked, there was a resolution I put forward and it was defeated, that before a grant is written, all that time and effort, I'd like to, I think as a board, we need to look at it. What are the stipulations? What is the grant supposed to do? What is the program? If there's any stipulations, strings attached, we need to look at that too, so.
And I want to be as respectful as possible. You go on to say that this is not being fiscally conservative or responsible, and I just want to publicly state that we did cut $2.9 million last year for this upcoming year. Very, very difficult conversations. I fully agree with you. School finance is really tough. I've been on the board for 10 years, and I can assure you I learn something new every single year. But I just really felt that there's a whole lot of lacking specifics in here, and I just don't want the public to be to read this and think that we don't know what we're doing up here and that we don't work with our finance director and our leadership team. And I will tell you, all 10 years that I've been on this board, we have had different auditors, and every year our auditors give us flying colors, and they tell us they are in the top 10% or so of districts. We're not in statutory operating deficit. We haven't been. I hope we never do, or at least in my 10 years. I can't speak to something before that, and I don't know what the future will hold. But I just want to say for the public that I do believe this board does act fiscally responsible, and we do make the difficult decisions when we have to. So thank you, and I appreciate your conversation.
If I may.
Well, I think we should move on with this.
Well,
Not
what
to
is
get-
the
no,
budget?
We don't want to get into a debate
You
here. We
need
can
to
do
get
that
the
at a work
budget.
session. You've had your
Before the
time
fact,
for-
not
I-
after.
Linda,
So I
please.
Thank you.
You've had your time here. Are there any other items of information from board members? I just want to reiterate a couple things here. First of all, it's amazing what goes on. People are off in the summer, but really not. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes here, curriculum-wise and training-wise, et cetera. June, July, and August will really probably crank up more the first part of August as well here, so it's great to see. I also appreciate the conversation at the joint boards meeting last Friday morning. Very informative, and people understand the importance of education in this town and public education in this town and how it impacts housing and employment, et cetera, there. So, and lastly, again, I've been on the board, I think this is my 7th, 8th year. I think I've been on the finance committee since day one, almost. And I do believe we do have a budget that is reasonable. We are fiscally responsible with the taxpayer money. We do have programs that are essential for kids and are gone through and examined, and where we put our money is important for our students. So anyone else have a item information? 4B, Mr. Benty, items information from you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was able to check in on our summer STEAM program. We're running out of 2 sites this year, Jefferson and the high school, and being able to go in there and see the wonderful work that those students are doing in there, the hands-on activities. It was just really great to be able to see what these students are able to do and what they're willing to do during the summer months. So everything from arts and crafts to learning about careers to swimming. So it's everything that's all kind of wrapped into that summer activity in our summer STEAM program. The other piece too is to say that although we did have a little bit of a technical difficulty tonight, we survived the CrowdStrike ordeal over the weekend fairly well. We weren't unscathed by it. We had, a few different devices that we needed to take care of. But one of the pieces that I'm very proud of is that our IT department was ready for something like this. They knew the steps, and by Friday morning, they were working on everything to figure out what they needed to do to make sure that it was going to be okay for us. And we've done quite well with it. So it still has hamstrung us because the internet ties everyone together, so it doesn't allow us to necessarily do what we want to do, but we survived pretty well for that. So that's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benty. Move on to agenda item number 5, public comment. One public comment here, Ms. Jeannie Yetzer. And the topic is Lucky Faribault. Welcome, Ms. Yetzer.
Thank you. I need to get this. Is that right?
That's right. Very
Okay.
good.
There we go. All right. It was brought to the attention of our community by Miss Moore how lucky Faribault Public Schools are. But I think some, including myself, may have missed the luck she pointed out. Let me highlight our great luck. First, we have one of the most gifted grant writers around. Zach Pruitt, he doesn't get nearly the props he deserves. He's not here tonight, but thank you, Zach.
He's here.
Yeah, he is.
Is he? Oh, thank you, Zach. I didn't see you, sorry. As Ms. Moore pointed out, Faribault Public Schools has been gifted some $7 million in grant money. As my 16-year-old boy said, how would we survive without that? 16-year-old boy said that. Because of the grant money, thank you, Zach, we have been able to teach our kids in new and personal ways. Our staff has been able to connect with students individually, not just brush over them with the basics. What did you say? Reading, writing, math? No. Our staff has been able to connect with students to help them grow socially, emotionally, and beyond the basics with before, during, and after school programs, providing kids safe places to grow and learn, give them nutritional meals and snacks. How lucky are our kids? Secondly, we are also very lucky to have a great team that worked through and found ways to make, as Ms. Moore pointed out, almost $3 million in cuts. That way, the board then could approve a budget where the district would not be overspending. And if I recall, Mr. Bentley, that these cuts were even maybe a little bit under budget. How responsible to our taxpayers to be keeping in line with the budget, living within our means. And thirdly, we are well aware of our community's lack of interest to increase taxes to support education in Faribault. The last levy was over 7 years ago, and the 2022 bond levy failed. And you may recall at that time, we were told very specifically, if this doesn't pass, we are going to be having to make major cuts in the next coming years. We knew that at that time, and we had to do it this year. So now, how lucky is Faribault Public Schools to have a team that gathers, which includes community members, staff that have been directly affected by the cuts, to draw up a plan to reorganize our district, to work with our superintendent so that we can continue to be financially responsible. And dare I say, conservative with our funds. So we look forward, as we look forward to the future that shows a worldwide low birth rate and lower enrollments. So thank you, Ms. Moore, for showing us that we are so lucky to have a great community because of our many grants and our fiscally responsible teams. We are able to go above and beyond for our students, not just the basics. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hitzer.
Thank you.
Move on to agenda item number 6, the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of minutes from the June 24th, 2024 and July 8th, 2024 work session, business meeting and work session, employment and additional assignments other. Entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Steves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. There's no discussion on the consent agenda. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Continuing with our agenda, item number 7, District Advisory Committee, no report. Agenda item number 8, Policy Committee report. Ms. Steves and Ms. Moore. Ms. Steves, I'll turn it over to you first.
Sure. As Mr. Bunty alluded to, at our next policy meeting in August, we'll be reviewing 40 policies. I haven't gotten all the way through the listing, but I've noticed the majority of the changes have been grammar, legislative changes, statute changes. I'd just like to put a shout out to Ms. Kenny for her time and diligence in posting these and posting where the changes are. That helps us remain transparent. And then the 2 new policies, one of them being the cell phone and electronic device policy.
Ms. Moore,
Yes,
anything to add?
and you did a very good job. Thank you, Cassie. As she had mentioned, it was mostly revisions and also the 2 new ones, like she said, cell phone and the school resource.
Very good.
So we have our work cut out for us.
Questions for the Policy Committee? No?
Thank you to those that serve on the policy committee.
Yes. Sounds like you can have a good
Light
August
reading
meeting.
for us. Yeah.
Big August meeting. Agenda item number 9, other committees, finance, there's no report tonight on finance. Agenda item 10A, other matters, update on the superintendent evaluation. I did review this at the work session, but for the benefit of the public, here again and online, in a business meeting, I will restate it. On July 8th, Noted July 8th, 2024, the Faribault School Board met in a closed session on June 24th, 2024, to discuss the results of the 2023-2024 superintendent evaluation. A rating score was used on the following three goals set by the school board. Continue to expand the 2022-2023 goal that was set for you regarding continuous improvement in all schools regarding excellence in education. Goal number 2, develop and articulate a clear vision and action steps for continuous improvement in all schools' student behavior. And goal number 3, develop and implement a plan to continue to support mentorship, evaluation, professional growth, and efficacy of district leadership. After review and discussion of the evaluation scores and comments, the board has concluded that Superintendent Benty has met expectations on all three goals established for him for the 2023-2024 school year. The board looks forward to working in partnership with Superintendent Benty for a successful 2024-2025 school year. Respectfully submitted, John Bellingham, Chair. Next, we have gifts and donations, agenda item 10B, gifts and donations, resolution 25-01. Do we have a motion for the gifts and donations, for approval of gifts and donation resolution 25-01?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Robichaud. Before we have discussion, the gifts and donations are as follows. Gifts from the Southeastern Minnesota Arts Council donated $5,000 for supplies and art workshops for summer STEAM. Our Savior's Lutheran Church donated $500 to the Nest. Faribault Booster Club donated $1,000 for school supplies for all. The Faribault Booster Club donated $100 to the athletic department for track pits. Discussion. Again, a big thank you to our donators for supplies for artwork, for art and workshop and supplies, to the Nest and for school supplies, all of it. We definitely have a great community to donate to our schools, so thank you for that. Any other comments here? Hearing none. Ms. Steves, would you do a roll call, please?
Linda Boudreau,
Aye.
Linda Moore,
Aye.
Richard Olson,
Aye.
Jerry Robichaud,
Aye.
Cassie Steves, aye. Chad Wolf,
Aye.
John Bellingham.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Steves. Agenda item 10C, consider approval of the 2024-2025 student handbooks for early childhood programs, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Roosevelt Elementary Schools, Faribault Middle School, Faribault Area Learning Center, Faribault Online Academy, and Faribault High School. Motion for approval of the handbooks as I have read.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Steves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Robichaud. Discussion. Dr.
Mr.
Robichaud.
Chair, I just have a question, follow up on what Mr. Olson was asking. In reviewing the handbooks, there's real consistency on cell phone between the high school and middle school. There is a little inconsistency in some of the elementaries, but if the policy that is going to be approved, hopefully by the board, will the principals come back and incorporate whatever is missing in their handbook so it'll be aligned with the policy that is approved?
Yeah, so like I said before, the handbooks are practice to enforce the policies of the district. So if the policy that's approved by the board is a little bit interpreted a little bit differently than what some of these handbooks say, they'll need to change the practice to conform to the policy.
Okay. Thank you.
Great question.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Boudreau.
No, you
Go
can.
ahead.
Well, I was just wanted to mention that I do like the fact that the Faribault High School handbook was rewritten to align with the Faribault Middle School handbook, from what I could see. I think that's a little easier for the parents. I'd just like to ask a question. What is the purpose of the student handbook? Is it for the parents and the students too?
So student handbooks are the practice that we follow in the buildings. So they're for parents, they're for students, they're for staff, they're for everyone to be on the same page on what it is are the expectations for that building, that specific building.
Do the parents and students, especially in the upper grades, have to sign off on them?
Yes,
Parents do and students?
students do,
Students do?
yes,
At all levels?
at the high school level.
At the high school level, okay, because I noticed that we have 8 student handbooks, and that's counting the online one, correct?
Say that one more time.
We have 8 handbooks, counting the online one.
Yes,
And I noticed the number of pages range from 6, and that was, I think, that the ALC, and I think, as I said, they are model for the school district, to 68 pages, with the average being about 30 pages. I guess my concern is for parents, and students. They're really busy. Do you think they really have time to read 68 pages? It's kind of a rhetorical question right now. I'm not sure that the parents have the time or the energy to read all of this. So I have a concern about that. I think these handbooks should be really broken down into some manageable, less time-consuming documents. Maybe it's diagrams, flowcharts, whatever. But if parents have to sign off and students, I don't think they're going to be reading 68 pages or 30 pages. And it's not like double-spaced, it's single-spaced. So I think we're kind of being a disservice to our parents and teachers, and parents and students, because I think we have to make something manageable for them, and I'm having a little bit of a problem with that. So just...
I will say, while I do agree with you, a lot of the stuff that's in there is required by state law to be in there.
Yes.
So
Can they get it down to a manageable size?
Well, you have to by law have the bullying policy in there.
Yeah.
I think the bullying policy is 8, 10, 12 pages long. So right there is, now the middle school has chosen to put it fully in there. The high school has chosen to put a link in there because all of our handbooks are electronic now. So there's a way that the high school is able to minimize that, but the links are still there that are part of the handbook.
And I know the ALC got it down to 6 pages. Also, one of the things too, I know this is with government funding, but I have a problem with the government telling the schools and the parents what foods they can bring. And I think this is a government overreach. That's in the handbook, and that goes back to the wellness
I'm sorry, I
policy.
didn't hear what is it?
With the food, they're
okay.
talking about that, and that goes back to the
Ms.
wellness
Boudreau.
committee. So,
Yes, I also looked over the handbooks and noticed from 68 pages to 6 pages, but some provide links to pages instead of including them. They just provide a link. So I'm not really, I really don't care how the schools each want to present their handbooks, but I did look at MSBA for guidance because they have a sample handbook that you can use, and I'm sure a lot of our principals use those. They have kind of the minimum of what is needed by the state required. And then I noticed some added like their staff, a list of their staff, which might be handy for parents. Others listed just some of the policies instead of a link. So I think it is a lot to read, but I thought they all were pretty much similar, and it's just catering to the students that they serve and their parents. So I don't know what my point here is, but I guess my point was that I noticed there are a lot of variables in the handbooks, and we have to leave, since they're all online, we have to let those schools make those decisions, and that's my thought.
Dr.
Sure,
Robichaud?
just a comment about condensing the handbooks. And my fear would be that when you start condensing, you start leaving things out that are critically important, whether it's by law or whether it's necessary for our students to know. And so I think that our principals, in all good faith, include everything that needs to be in there, and to start condensing, I think, puts us in a very vulnerable position. And yes, I understand that parents are busy, but we cannot fault them and say, well, you don't have to read it. They have an obligation as a parent to make sure they're informed of the conditions in which their students are going to be attending school. And because of the variances, we have different sizes. You take a look at the ALC, the number of students attending there versus the number of students attending the high school. So obviously there's logic that there's going to be more in the high school handbook than there is in the ALC.
Mr. Chair, I know
Ms.
what I
Boudreau.
forgot to say. I also copied off our policy on the wellness, which relates to the food. Because we have free lunches, they also have requirements, and whether we like them or not, they have to be put in the handbook so parents know they can't bring snacks, they can't do certain things, so that's another addition to the handbook, right? So it is what it is, but parents do need to know some of these important things, and this seems to be the only way to get it to them.
Any comments here? I'd like to say I was really impressed and read through every one of them. And I was really impressed with how I believe the elementaries seem to have mainstream. They used to have different, with the three elementaries, there used to be different handbooks. They seem to be mainstream. The message is the same, which is great. Middle school and high school kind of combining there as well. A lot of work goes into these. And it gives the foundation, a handbook gives the foundation of guidelines and regulations for students, parents, and staff. So it goes from field trips to attendance to whatever you want. It's in the handbook and to be referred to. If they don't refer to it, out of our control, but as a quality organization, we provide necessary information of our institution by law and what we feel parents need and should know in those situations. Is there any further discussion?
Just one
Dr.
question,
Robichaud.
Mr. Benty. At the high school, is the handbook reviewed by the students in a particular class so that they're aware of what's in there?
Yes, the handbook is gone over at the beginning of the school year at the high school level and the middle school level for sure. And they also go over more they get it down more to rules and expectations during elementary time. I will say, just to comment on you, Mr. Chair, and Mrs. Boudreau, this is the first year that we have used the MSBA model policy, or the model handbook. So we purchased that this year for elementary and secondary level so that we would have consistency across all of our grade levels. And Mr. Chair, I agree with you. It is great to see that all three of our elementaries have almost identical handbooks this year.
Right.
So
Wonderful.
That's
further-
cool.
Any further discussion? Okay, we do have a motion and a second for approval of the 2024-2025 student handbooks. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Item 10D, agenda item 10D, reorganization update. A report, Mr. Benty.
yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we are at the point where we are going to take a little bit of time. So speaking with Mr. Chair and Mr. Wolf last week, the idea is to present the reorganization ideas, or I should say presentation, to this group in September. So the reorganization committee will have one final meeting in August to go through what are their final recommendations for this after I put some of them together. So that's where we'll be. The real push is to have a decision from the board by October. I've spoken with our Director of Buildings and Grounds, and if he has a decision by October, we should have no problems with supply chains. We should have no problems with bids. We shouldn't have issues around that. If we do wait until November, which the board can absolutely wait till November if it chooses to, we lose our competitive advantage when it comes to bids. We may not get the bids in or get the competition in the bids that we're looking for, which may drive up the cost some, but it's still doable. We will be pushing the line on what we would be able to get accomplished at McKinley. before the following school year. So
Don't have any questions or anything? Kind of know where we're at, so. Great timeline, because at one point we were talking, when we first organized this, we were talking maybe November, December, that to get this going, to finalize whatever changes, if anything. So we'll go from there. So thank you, Mr. Benty. Item 10E, 2024-2025 Superintendent Goals. I'll first entertain a motion for approval of Superintendent Benty's goals for 2024 through 2025 school year.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Second.
And we have second by Ms. Steves. As far as discussion, I wish to go over them. There are three. First of all, thank you to all board members. I got them on time. I got them all written down and prioritized, and sent them to Dr. Robichaud and Ms. Boudreau as part of the Superintendent Evaluation Committee. There were three very strong items that came through by consensus with the majority, with the board here. And they are, goal 1 would be standard 1, governance team. Element 1B, goals and/or strategic plan, in which Superintendent Benty would facilitate the development of a strategic plan and mission statement that aligns with the district's short and long-term measurable goals. Goal 2 was from Standard 3, communication and community and staff relationships. Visibility, element 3F, visibility and approachability, is visible and approachable to students, staff, and community. And then goal 3, student support, element 7D, student discipline, defines expectations for student behavior and conduct through policies that identify behaviors subject to discipline, enforces violations of student discipline policy, and communicates expectations for student behavior to parents and students. The descriptions, we were not able to get on board book with that, but they will be added after the meeting, conclusion of the meeting, et cetera, here. So with that, again, thanks to all of you, and I'll open it up for discussion.
Mr. Chair, were
Ms.
you
Boudreau.
going to mention that strategic planning was one of the goals and is not stated in the description?
The description I read, it says strategic plan that we'll put on there, but it does not mention it in.
So we'll insert that maybe in there, because I think you were going to do that.
I see goals and/or strategic plan.
But in the
I see it.
description.
We were talking the elements where the
element
rubric
just-
4321.
Element
The
doesn't
rubric.
state it.
Line on board book.
It does on board book? I'm reading it right now too, so
Doesn't,
it says goals and/or strategic plan,
This rubric.
budget here
element.
with the element there, but we can add in, I believe the description that was provided, we provided here, does say sort of a strategic plan, and that will be embedded in each one of those
Okay,
rubrics there. Let's
all right.
agree with that. So, Mr. Olson, do you have anything you?
No.
Okay, we looked at it. Okay, good.
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Ms.
I put in 2 goals. It was actually because I know we don't always agree with budget items, but I think school district finance, actually you could put 2 or 3 goals in, and I put 2, and they both talked about the school district finance. I noticed they're not in here. I think that is a very important one. I don't know if we can add a 4th goal or not, but I think that should be considered. I know we disagree on the budget sometimes, but
Well, what we did was, when we established the process, said you would submit the goals, and we would go with the goals that were submitted the most, right? That were consensus among the board here, and
Okay.
I would believe all of us sitting here, well, I can say all of us sitting here, some of the goals that I had are not included either. So, yeah, so these are the goals we have. Ms. Boudreau, do you wish to?
Yes, I do, because I do think finances is important as well. And that's why, under the element, it does state that aligns available resources with school district's budget to accomplish goals. So it kind of includes that component in there as one of the focuses. So that's a good thing.
And
Mr.
I
Chair?
would like, just a minute, please, I would like to add that I have discussed these goals with Mr. Benty. He is in agreement with these goals. I don't know if you wish to say anything about them, Mr. Benty, or whatever, but I know
Well,
you've started working on some of them already a month ago, so. yes.
It's a little awkward. I mean, the goals are here, from the school board for my performance for a year. I understand the budget piece. I have no problem with, I tend to stick myself with 3 goals. I don't have a problem going with more if that's what the board wishes. The finance piece is always one of those pieces that I felt in this district, even when I was principal, there's always a lot of kind of back and forth between the board and the superintendent and the cabinet around what the budget looks like anyway. My plan moving forward is to continue to bring as balanced a budget as possible. So that is always kind of my plan.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Ms. Moore.
Yeah, would you, because I only got just the 3 basic summary, and I didn't bring those sheets along, that packet. Would you mind just reading that again? Was it for goal 1 with the budget included, or was it goal 2?
It's on the board book.
It's on board book.
Well, I didn't bring it with me, so.
Okay.
It's
but I
online.
just-
It's online right now.
Oh,
It's
okay.
on the agenda.
All right, so that's part of it, part of the budget
Yeah.
is
Yes.
included in that. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify.
As far as the number of goals, I feel, if it were me, I would like to just have 2 goals. I think sometimes you get so spread out with goals here, but we went with 3 here. I think it's, you hone down on those 3 goals and just say, this is what and we do so many other things as well, but this is a priority which the majority of the board members felt they were. So I think goals are important, but if you have too many of them, you don't do a good job at whatever you're doing. Dr. Robichaud.
Chair, thank you. I don't think we need to get caught up on the number of goals. I think it's the substance of those goals that is more important. One thing I've learned over the last few days is it's okay for people my age to change their mind. And so after reading the goals, and I'm not minimizing the goals that are written and submitted. I think they're very good goals, and I think they give Mr. Benty a good eye on what the board expects of his performance over the next year. However, after reviewing the goals in more detail and taking a look at them, I'm very concerned that it is absent any real significant leadership commitments that need to be done. Any goal that this board approves and we impose on Mr. Benty is that they are aligned with our mission, they're aligned with our core values, and to me that the goals are reflective of management and not leadership at this point. And I am really concerned that the goals that are listed, I see as subsets of leadership. That it is, somebody who creates a vision and a mission for the district and where's the district going to be 5 years from now, and working toward those goals and developing that whole culture of excellence in leadership in education. I personally feel that that's missing in these goals, that we are not looking at creating a culture of excellence in learning and the fact that we want our students to grow. And also, if you take a look at the strategies that are listed on the front page of the agenda, student-centered learning, equity, mental health and safety, school climate, family and community engagement. As I take a look at those, I see the one about community involvement fitting into strategy E, but I think the goals are absent of those others. And I think that as we take a look at what we want this district to be, all of us, Mr. Benty and the board and the staff and community, it is a culture of excellence in learning that we're looking for. And unfortunately, I don't see those in these goals. I'm not being critical of the goals, because I think those are subsets of leadership. But I think we need an overarching goal that talks about that whole culture of excellence. And things like, accountability, not only of the superintendent, but of everybody in this district, including ourselves as board members, the accountability that we have to have. The issue of taking a look at learning as the number one priority in this district. It's not, looking at the budget and scrutinizing it and looking at it, how are those resources being allocated appropriately to the dynamics of learning? And where is that coming from? So I think it's a subset, but I'm sorry that I don't see that goal of creating a culture of excellence in learning in this district as the goals are being presented. Again, I'm not being critical of the goals, because I think they're important, but I think there's one step missing as we set goals for our leader in this district.
Thank you, Dr. Robichaud. We do have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Olson.
how prevalent was goal 3 in your analysis? Was that quite common?
Yes, very strong.
Okay.
Very.
I really put that really top.
Okay. Yep. And I just numbered them, there was no,
Yeah, right, yeah.
like that. It wasn't the last one or whatever, just threw it apart there. Yep. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion to approve the 2024-25 superintendent goals signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Item number 11, dates to remember, August 5th, 2024, 5:30 p.m. work session here. August 6th, 2024 at 3:45 p.m. policy committee. August 12th, 2024 is finance committee at 7:30 a.m. That's virtual. August 19th, 2024, 5:30 p.m. regular board meeting. And the reminder of our school board candidate seminars, August 8th. I am offering two of those, one at 9 a.m. and one at 5:30 p.m. August 12th at 10 o'clock a.m. and 5:30 p.m. here. They have rooms reserved somewhere here. Anderson room, this room, as they're all being used there. So again, our school board filing is July 30th through August 13th, the time frame. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Do we have a second?
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.